and welcome to the GBTA broadcast studio. I am Catherine Logan, Regional Senior Vice President for EMEA and APAC at GBTA, and we are broadcasting to you today from the GBTA APAC Conference 2025 in Singapore. And joining me in the broadcast studio is Will Kataria, Senior Director and Country Head, Singapore for Cvent. Welcome to the broadcast studio, Will.
Thank you so much for having me here.
So Will, tell me, Cvent has released its event industry report for Asia 2025. Based on your research, what are some of the emerging trends that you're seeing in the events industry?
Yeah, it's a very interesting report. We surveyed planners all across of Asia to get some good data and critical data for the events industry. So when we look at the emerging trends, right, I could say there's four key things that we can look into. The first thing first, there's a pent-up demand for events. Events is increasing. About 73% of planners mention that they are increasing events. And the volume we are looking at is about 30 to 50% increase in events volume, which is again very, very substantial. And you could see that in Asia, events are just thriving. The second thing I think that stood out from the report was diversification in events. So when we look at the growth in events, it's across all platforms. So what planners are saying that they're looking at doing more in-person events. Of course, in-person is the predominant event volume and what people are looking to do. But there's a growth in virtual, there's a growth in hybrid events as well, especially webinars. So there's a lot of increase in webinars as well, which is a more cost-effective way of engaging with people. Then looking back at the third trend, it's also about revenue generation. So what's happening is revenue generation is important, and planners are tasked with increasing revenue, but then also in getting better data and more reporting, right? So when we increase events and meetings, we're looking at generating more valuable reports and more valuable data for the organization. And the reason why, which is a good segue into my fourth point, is the increase in cost. Events are increasing, but events are also getting more expensive. Travel is a little more expensive. Venues are slightly more expensive, right? So there is a higher budget allocated for event spend. But then when the budget is more, there's also more reliance on the revenue, the return on investments as well, right? So planners are looking forward to do that as well.
Well, as a part-time event planner, there's so much you're saying there that resonates with me. I need to read your report. So where can people access it?
Yeah, absolutely. The questions that are being asked to planners now are very different than what were asked 5 years or 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Right now the questions are, A, are we making events more experiential? B, are we driving more engagement to attendees, right? And third is, what is the ROI, right? That's a question that consistently is getting asked to planners. Yeah. So the job profile is a lot different than what it used to be.
No, and can people access your report then on the Cvent website?
Absolutely, it's on Cvent website. Okay. It's the Asia Industry Report. We in fact also have, if this is going to planners outside of Asia as well, we have it for Australia, we have it for Middle East, we have it for North America, for Europe as well. Yeah. So planners can download region-specific reports that are relevant to them.
Sounds really, really useful. Thank you. So there's been a huge amount of talk about AI. How do we see AI shaping the future of the events industry?
Yeah, AI, it's everywhere, right? You know what, the other day, my daughter was trying to use AI to do some of her homework and to get some answers to her questions. Luckily, I caught that. So I tried to put some more parental controls on her iPad. But AI is everywhere, right? And of course, events industry, we have to use it more. We have to adopt to it. And AI can be used to make events faster, stronger, smarter, right? So when we look at the events industry, planners are welcoming AI with open arms. In fact, from our reports as well, just looking back into it, about 87% of organizations are utilizing AI. Where we are utilizing AI with events is to plan, to manage, to promote. Marketing, AI has a lot of contributions towards marketing of events as well. So that's where planners are using AI more rampantly. The second thing we see is technological advancements, right? So about 90% of organizations that were surveyed, they mentioned that they were willing to invest in uncharted event technologies that they haven't used before.
Wow.
Right? So we are looking to invest, of course, more in event technology, but use AI as well. And they are more open to consider technologies which are AI first. And of course, at Cvent as well, we are using AI and we are embedding AI throughout our technology as well, where it's easier for planners to create events, it's easier for them to manage events. There's AI that's being used at the events as well for attendee engagement. For instance, if you're attending an event, right, and you want to network with people, AI can recommend the people that could be more relevant to you, right, based on the title, based on the sessions that they're attending, based on their profile, right? It makes it easier and more natural for people to network.
Yeah.
Then AI is also used for reportings as well, because AI can give you a lot of good data and make more sense out of that data, easy and faster, right? So I think absolutely it's a very important pillar to the events industry.
Yeah, it's like having a really smart assistant, isn't it?
It is.
Somebody who does all the hard work for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it cuts a lot of work for you, right? It's
Yeah.
like an assistant who's doing that work for you.
No. And you mentioned about technology. How do you see events technology redefining the events industry?
Yeah. See, events technology has always been on the forefront. I'll share something from my experience. I have been in this industry for 19 years now. Not that old. I started working when I was outside college into this industry, just saying that. But anyway, so what's happened, I would say a decade and a half ago, right, about 10, 15 years ago, when we used to talk to planners, the technology that was in consideration at that time was event management, event registration, automating registrations, automating event marketing, right? And because planners were using Excel or regular Google Forms or basic booking forms, right, which were not solving the purpose. I can tell you, to some extent, it's still the case right now, right? But the conversations have changed. Over the last decade, or let's say more so since COVID, since the pandemic, right? What has happened is that the engagement of attendees has taken up, right? And planners are looking to spend more money and be more creative with events and meetings. Organizations want to be more creative with events and meetings. Mm-hmm. Why? Is because people are spending 3 hours to 6 hours with you at an event, right? That is the way for you to know them better. That is a way for organizations to engage them better, right? So technology nowadays is more about how we can drive more engagement. Of course, how we can make the life easier for planners as well, how we can drive automation. That's always there, right? That is a guiding principle behind event technology. But the new things, we just talked about AI, right? We talked about engagement, making events more meaningful to attendees as well, right? Finding new ways to know more information and to be able to use that information more constructively is what technology does in these days.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about personalization at this conference, and I think that's what you're talking about, really. It's like that, how you personalize the experience of the attendee in a frictionless way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, personalization is the key, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And where do we see the events industry moving concerning sustainability and accessibility?
Yeah. So I would say events industry is embracing sustainability. How we're doing it is, one, for let's say corporate event planners in an organization, companies are taking up sustainability, right? And it trickles down to events and meetings as well. But second of all, industry as such in particular as well is looking forward towards sustainability. And in fact, even from the survey, 88% of the respondents mentioned that sustainability is a big initiative for them. And about 70% mentioned that they're willing to track the carbon footprint. So one thing is being sustainable, and there's a lot of measures, right? For example, even technology, right? We don't do any print collateral anymore. Are we using sustainable badges at events and meetings, right?
And let's not talk about water bottles.
Absolutely. Even smaller things like, are you not doing plastic bottles and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things, small initiatives that can mean a lot, right? But what's more important now is also how we track it. So planners are also saying, what are the better ways to track carbon footprint and to be able to report upon that, right? So that's one. Second thing is, again, the practices, right? Sustainable practices and implementing those practices, right? About 80% of organizations, they have already implemented some or the other practices around sustainability when it's concerning events and meetings. In fact, even doing smaller formats, right? Where you can do webinars, where you can try and do more virtual or hybrid meetings, right? Imagine if you're hosting an event or conference, right? And you have attendees who can fly in from other countries. Again, that's a way to go, right? That's what people do in-person events, right? But think about a hybrid format. That can save cost, that can be more sustainable. So planners who are not flying in from outside the city, outside the country, they can join the event virtually.
Yeah.
But technology can help drive that experience. So they can have a similar experience, a seamless experience, connecting with in-person attendees as well. So those are the things that can also drive more sustainability, right? Third thing is also accessibility, right? We are the events industry, right? Accessibility has always been something that we lead with, right? So within the survey, about 72% of the respondents planners, right? They were saying that they have accessibility targets, ensuring events are inclusive and accessible. And at the same time, there's an effort to make sure it is something which is more natural towards events and meetings. It's not something that is a big effort. It is something that comes more naturally towards events and meetings. And in fact, our report also paints a very optimistic picture towards sustainable and accessible events in Asia Pacific. Venues are getting sustainability and accessibility certified. So what planners are also doing is that within sourcing, when they're sourcing for venues, they look at more sustainable venues, right? Sustainability and accessibility certified venues as well. So I think, yes, there's a lot of awareness, and I think we are taking it front on, events industry, right? Head on, we are moving into sustainability and accessibility.
Absolutely. It's all about being purposeful and thoughtful about the way in which we implement our events. But with that, Will, thank you so much for joining us at the GBTA broadcast studio.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, and thank you for tuning in.